bring in Pat McFadden, Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster and Labour candidate. You must have been doing a little Snoopy dance when that poll landed yesterday, although, as you always say to me, Mr McFadden, the only one that counts is on election night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really need to be here. You can answer your own questions because you know what I'm going to say to that. People should ignore these polls. Nobody's voted. No seats have been won or lost. It makes no difference to us. We will keep going with our campaign.
Must have given you a little warm feeling inside, though.
I ignore them, and I tell the Labour staff to ignore them and the Labour candidates to ignore them. No votes have been cast. We're the challengers in this election. We're not the incumbents. The incumbents are the Conservatives. And the last thing I would want is for anybody to believe that the result had somehow been decided. The result hasn't been decided. We've still got a month to go in this election campaign, and we're going to keep working until 10 o'clock on polling day because the British people deserve that. If you're asking people for their trust, for their support, you should take it seriously and you shouldn't be distracted by polls, and we won't be.
OK, so what's the benchmark then? How do you know how well you're doing?
Well, we canvass every day, we get our returns, we analyse that, we keep going. That's what we do every day. We've got a great field and data team who go into all this stuff. But that tells you what's happening that day. It doesn't tell you what's going to happen on July the 4th, so you have to keep working. That's the only responsible attitude in this election, because change will only come if people vote for it. And if people don't vote for change, we'll have 5 more years of what we've had for the previous 14.
Do you have 1992 written up somewhere on the wall in central office, reminding you what happened when you thought it was a shoo-in?
I don't need to write it on the wall. I've been around long enough to remember these elections. I know what can go wrong, and we are not going to make mistakes that we've made in the past. We're not going to pay attention to polls. We're going to keep going, taking our message for change to the country, because that's the question at the heart of the election. Is it continuity with the Tories, or is it change with Labour? And those are the only 2 possible outcomes of the election.
Well, I think Nigel Farage might have a different view on that.
That's what our policies are about. Well, he might, but I don't think even he thinks he's going to be Prime Minister on July the 5th.
Would you, in some way, if necessary, be happy to do some sort of coalition or joint work with him?
No, we are aiming for a majority government. We're not interested in anything like that with any other party. We want a majority. We want to bring stability back. We've had instability. We've had 5 Prime Ministers in 7 years, 7 Chancellors, 60-odd ministerial resignations. It's time to turn the page on all that. Stability is really important for the country, because only then can you start to rebuild, and that's what we want to do.
You say that you'd like to close the front door on President Putin. What about the side doors? Our economics editor and data editor found that Russia made £10.4 billion a month in the 3 months to April from its oil and gas revenues, and Russian oil is still imported into the UK indirectly from Indian refineries. Yeah,
that's the point we're making today, that energy security is a matter of national security. It's also, of course, a matter of people's individual bills, and we saw what happened to bills when Russia invaded Ukraine. We had a huge price spike, and that showed us how vulnerable we are to international oil and gas markets. And what we're saying today is that these shocks could come again. We live in an unstable world, and the best way to insulate our country, if you pardon the pun, from those kind of shocks is to make sure that we are more energy independent. Greener power, cleaner power is also cheaper power now. So by investing in this and doing it at pace, we will be able to bring bills down, but crucially, we'll also be contributing to our national security. And that's 2 good reasons why we should do this.
So what are you going to do in the short term about Russian oil coming in via Indian refineries?
Well, we want to make sure that all the sanctions that have been put in place are properly applied, but we have to go at this at pace. As Sir Patrick Vallance said a couple of days ago, if we don't do this and we don't do it quickly, what will happen is other countries will come up with the solutions, and we'll end up having to buy them. And I don't want that fate for the United Kingdom. I think we can do better than that.
OK, but do you have a plan in place to stop this oil coming in via Indian refineries?
We will enforce all sanctions properly.
That's a no.
That's going to be an important part of our foreign policy. We take that seriously. I was the person who questioned the Treasury on their lack of enforcement on sanctions with regard to Russians 6 months ago.
Did you know this was happening?
We want to enforce these things properly.
Did you know this was happening?
Well, we're always vigilant about this. And I think the Russians find all sorts of ways around this through unregistered ships and dark ships and so on. So it does take constant vigilance. And where things are exposed, if we are elected, I'm sure that the Foreign Office and the Treasury, led by Labour ministers, will do everything they can to make sure sanctions are enforced.
OK. Well, thanks to our economics and data editor, you can have that one for free. What are you going to do about Diane Abbott? Are you confident that she's going to be selected today?
Yes, I am. Yeah, the
And you're happy about that?
meet, the candidates will be approved. I support every Labour candidate. So I think we've got a great field of candidates. Well, you know, I don't have favourites. I support them all. I think we've got a great field of candidates, and I'm really proud to be leading a campaign with this field of candidates going into the election.
Is it tricky, though, when you've got such a prominent politician who has been a representative of the Labour Party for such a very long time, and then one of the main planks of your manifesto will be to put 20% VAT on private education, and you're saying, actually, we don't want private education, we want these kids to come back into the fold where they're going to be looked after with the money from the 20% VAT on private education, and then you discover that she sent her kids to a private school. Is that not like a bit meh?
No, because nobody's trying to take anybody's choice away. She had a choice to do that. Other parents have a choice to do that. That's completely fine. If people want to make that choice, we don't want to take anyone's choice away. All we're saying is that the proper VAT should be paid, and it's a tough choice to make. And it's a tough choice to make because we want to improve educational standards for everyone, but we're not going to take anyone's choice away. If somebody wants to send their child to a private school, that's a matter for them. It's not about taking choice away, it's about making sure that we lift standards for every child in the country, and that's the best thing we can do for the country's future.
You're looking forward to the next poll?
The only poll I'm thinking about is the one on the 4th of July.
I know. I wonder how many times I'm going to have one of those bingo cards made up, and then every time you say it, I can stamp it. Maybe I'll get a full house by the 4th of July. It's always great to see you. Thank you.
Fair enough.